So hi, Graham. Graham from Hudson Rose. Do you want to start by giving us a little background on who you are and what you do? And
Yeah, I'm Graham. I am the, what do I call myself? Managing director? That sounds pretty grand. But then some people say founder, but I think that sounds like I'm running a cult. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I run Hudson Rose. I didn't fall into finance. I dreamt about being a mortgage broker from the age of 5, thinking this will be the thing that I'll do. So no, I did fall into it, as most people do. I did my degree in politics and thought that was useful. What will I do with that then? And then I worked, after university, I worked in betting shops with it, actually, messing around with numbers. And then it was that weird, so it was that period about 2005-6, when the only job you seemed to be able to get was to recruit for other people getting jobs. Like, if you look for jobs in like 2007, everything was recruitment consultancy. But I was like, well, how do you get the jobs that aren't the recruitment consultancy jobs? That just wasn't something I was going to do. Anyway, so I was like, well, I'll look at a state agency because I could probably give that a bash. And that's where I came across mortgage broker. When you're new to an industry and you're new to the whole thing, right? You look at it and it's like a job description, right? And it says, you've got to be resilient to failure. And you're like, Christ. And it sounds like you're walking into like an absolute horror show. So I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to apply for that because I won't get a job. And then, yeah, I did the 4-stage interview process, got through, got a job and loved it. And, you know, turns out I'm quite resilient to failure, it would seem. Or who knew? Did that for 4 years with London and Country. Weathered the storm with HSBC for like 8 months and then joined Capital Private Finance and then got promoted, became a manager, thought, I don't want to do this, and set up my own business, which will be for the last four years next week. Thought it was a birthday.
Wow.
Oh, I missed it.
Oh, imagine if you're in the office on your own on your anniversary.
Do you know why I know? It's because it's my daughter's birthday today, and I sat down at the computer self-employed a week after she was born, because who needs money, right? I mean,
with a new baby.
Do you know what? We've talked about this a lot. What made you go from established, secure job into just, I've just had a baby, let's go on?
do you know, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I'd been there 6 years, sat and did the job, and I like to think I did it quite well. The sales manager for the country team job came up, so I threw my hat into the ring for that, got it. But then I wasn't doing the job that I like doing. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't sort of selling mortgages to people. I wasn't chatting about insurance. I wasn't doing what I was middle management, sort of working with middle management estate agencies, trying to get leads to it. It just wasn't what I was set out to do. It's just not leads, you know? So I was like, well, actually, I had this idea that it didn't have to be how it always has been. And then that's how Hudson Rose came out. It was always intended to be smart and accessible.
Obviously, your background had been in the mortgage side. Was there ever any part when you were looking at going on your own that you thought you'd expand it out and it be more than focusing on mortgages?
Yeah, 100%, right? It was always my intention when I started in mortgages. I do mortgages for a bit. I had always thought, and I'm sure other people will think this, that mortgages is the poor little brother or sister in financial advice. It's like, it's your entry level stuff, right? And I think I had that kind of chip on my shoulder a little bit and thought the same. Thought, well, I've got to graduate to the big leagues. And then I went to Capital and I realised, do you know what? I didn't know anything. I sat in a room of old school experienced brokers that dealt with private banks and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't know anything. Yeah. It just like, I started doing my diploma and I realised I don't like pensions. I've been in mortgages for so long that I know it and I recognise it. And I like the a lot of people get to them, but it's transactional. I actually really like the transactional nature of what we do. We're like kitchen fitters, right? You come along, you get your kitchen fitted, and 5 years later when you want to replace, you come back and we do the job again, you pay as we do it, and off you go. And I actually quite like that because it's very clean. There's no question about what's the portfolio doing. That's for other people. And people are happy when they buy a house and when they remortgage house. Generally, apart from the divorce side, it's an industry that I know, I like it, and I'm reasonable at it. That's a good advert for the business. Come to Hudson Rose, we're reasonable at mortgages.
One of the things that we always struggle with is we feel that financial services, certainly as a group, is very slow to evolve. You know, what you're doing is you're saying, I'll be myself, and you're taking risks. I remember it was maybe a couple of years ago, we put out a job advert which said, you need to be shit hot at Excel. And you should have seen the Twitter blow up. So I was wondering how you felt about, you know, standing out from the crowd and trying to be ahead of that curve.
Well, how I feel about it is I couldn't give a shit, to be quite honest. but it is interesting. I get so asked a lot because obviously we do look a bit different, and I'm yet to come across a firm that is quite as out there as how we present ourselves. You know, my hair at the moment is really long, but normally we dye pink, and we have the pink neon sign, we have the nice offices. I think it's not about how we look, it's about what we do. And Hudson Rose has come about not through some marketing plan go, well, what the world really needs is some approachable, because all mortgage advisors are approachable, but it's the perception, isn't it? It's what clients and customers and consumers perceive as what a mortgage advisor is, right? Hence why not all suits and ties is, our hashtag. It's not about having a go at people that wear suits and ties. It's about the perception is that we all wear suits and ties. I've been doing this 11 years when I set up Hudson Rose. I was like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to hide behind anything. And maybe it's the confidence in knowing that I can do the job. It means, well, sod it. What we look like is irrelevant. But equally, some people, it's a uniform, isn't it? Some people like the suit tie because you put your game face on.
Is there a reason particularly that you went for a shop and an actual physical entity as opposed to just being online?
Yeah. Fell on a tenancy agreement and signed it. I was like, oh God, I got a shop. I mean, it's part accident. The first one was, I was getting my lunch one day and there was a shop there and it's on the A46, which sounds like a bigger road than it is. I'd always wanted to get a premises, and it's actually part of the marketing, really. If you're dealing with people's personal lives, right? Yes, you can do it on the phone. Yes, you can do it from a business park outside, all that kind of things. But it all works on trust. People need to trust you. And if you're on someone's high street, people can drop in, can see us, they can sit on the sofa, they can have a beer. So the first one, what we did is we were about 10 or 15 metres from the roundabout. And as the cars come in, I had this idea. I put this big neon sign on the wall that says, your mortgage, our problem. And then we've got graphics in the window, nice fancy script writing saying mortgage insurance advice. It doesn't look like a mortgage advisor's office, right? It looks as far removed from a mortgage advisor's office as you could probably get. And this was by design, right? People would see it and they'd go, what? And they still do. You can sit there as the traffic queues up. People look in and they like double take and they look at the thing, they look up and down and they drive off. And then hopefully the idea is, right, is that when somebody needs a mortgage, they go, I pass that place on the way to work. So that was how we did Nailsworth, and that worked. And then Cirencester came up, and lo and behold, in Cirencester, we are 10 metres away from a major junction. The traffic queues outside. And the bit is we don't have to go for high footfall. We want high carfall. Mm-hmm. It's not a word. You know what I mean? High traffic area. Because we want the people to see is we don't need to be in the high footfall, we pay higher rents. And I think it's part of that. There's a drive towards having your trendy barber and your butcher and your greengrocer and your loose food shop and all that kind of stuff. It's all coming back to small high streets, which is brilliant. But financial services is part of the high street. Banks are part of the high street in the same way that everything else has disappeared. So have we. So why shouldn't we be there in a small community, in a small town? And it's that relaxing thing, isn't it? We've had people come in and sit on our sofa and say, I wouldn't have come to see you if you didn't look like this. Yeah. That's a nice thing. We're used to, in our profession, we're used to going and sitting in banks or in offices, and it doesn't faze us, boardrooms, whatever it might be. But for a lot of people, that's alien to them. Yeah. There's plenty of people that do jobs where they don't have to go to that, but they still want to buy a house and still want to remortgage a house. And so having a welcoming place to come, and people do tend to open up. And at the heart of what we do, it's about holding people's hand. It's about allaying fears, right? And people aren't going to tell you what they're scared of unless they're relaxed. So if someone comes in and says, well, I'm worried about messing this up, or I'm worried about the valuation, or I'm worried about how to put an offer in, some people don't ever tell that because they come to a broker thinking it's just money. You deal with numbers. You deal with how much it's going to cost me, what's the best rate, and off I go. And the job isn't that. The job is holding people's hand throughout. And I think that helps.
Do you find that you change your approach with, your first-time buyers and your younger generation who maybe haven't had that kind of experience previously?
I think the fear is universal. I don't think it changes. No one's an expert in mortgaging and buying properties unless you're a mortgage broker or an estate agent, right? It's something people only do a few times in their life. So our client bank will be everything from first. A lot of the time people say, oh, you must do well with first-time buyers. Oh, we do all right with first-time buyers, but we do all right with people in their 70s as well. And I say that to my first-time buyers. It's not anything to feel ashamed of, being frightened. I'm useless at absolutely everything except this job, right? I had to get someone to help put the shelves up. Handy as toothache. I'm not particularly athletic. I'm not, just generally a bit rubbish. But I can do this. And that's what I always say. I say, look, you do what you do. Whatever it is you do, you go do that, and I'll look after this bit for you. And that's stay in your lane.
Yeah. And what's kind of the biggest misconception that they tend to have around buying a house? What's kind of the one thing that you're always kind of correcting people on or educating them on?
You don't know what you don't know, do you? So it's again about getting prepared. Come and talk to someone, because we have no problem, what we do, chatting to people 12 months before they're going to buy. And we take 20 minutes, half an hour to have a chat with you, because we have the information you need to make a decision on how you prepare yourself over the next 12 months. Yeah. So it's only fair. I sometimes people ring up and go, oh, I'm not doing anything yet, so I don't want to bother you. And I'm like, mate, no bother. Let's have a chat, because this is how you're going to know what to do. And then you'll come back to us in 12 months' time and we'll sort it out. It's not about, are you ready to do something now? right, okay, let's go. And if you're not, don't bother me. We're not churning numbers. We generally want to get to know the people.
Amazing, I love it. Fab, well, thank you. It was so kind of you to come on the podcast.
Thanks, Chris.
That's cool.